Hello and welcome to Potterwatch from Page to Screen, Episode 2. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Lucy.
And today we're going to be diving into the start of Philosopher's Stone. And let's just say there'll be plenty of major spoilers for the books and films.
In this episode, we'll be meeting the Dursleys, Dumbledore will drop off Harry, and we'll go to the zoo for Dudley's birthday.
Okay, so let's start with a day at Grunnings. So the first difference that we found were the Dursleys actually being introduced. I actually really like that the film started with Dumbledore because loads of times that I've heard people say, oh, I only got into Harry Potter after like a number of tries.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the first chapter is like so boring because it's about like
because that's the
point. Boringest family.
Yeah.
That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought we could do like a bit of a comparison to Vernon Dursley, and the rest of the section is about like his day.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you? Oh my gosh, I can't even think of his name. How do you think the actor did in portraying Vernon?
I think he was spot on, to be honest.
Me too. He's one of my favourites. Richard Griffiths. That's the one.
Yeah, that's. I think all the Dursleys, even if physically they weren't exactly how I imagined them, they just play it so perfectly.
Yes, I imagine Petunia. We're already going off topic.
Yeah.
I imagine Petunia as her neck is longer and to have like buck teeth because she describes her as like a horse face.
Yeah. And super blonde hair, like yellow bleached.
Blonde hair. I actually, when I read the books, because I had already watched this film and before I read the books, so I find it difficult to envision them with blonde hair instead of brown.
I always get surprised when I get to it.
Yeah.
It catches me off guard. But I think he encapsulates the kind of fury of Vernon Dursley.
Yes.
And anything that's not like him.
Yes, I think so too. Okay, so then I actually think that Vernon Dursley's first little bit is so hilarious, and I need to read the first sentence of this book. I think it's the best
Just
first
iconic.
sentence.
Yeah,
and because we're doing this podcast, if you didn't know, for people who either for whatever reason haven't read the books, and you're missing out on a real gem of a first sentence here. It says, Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. Like, that is so good.
Perfect.
Yeah. So Mr. Dursley, if I realised just now that if you haven't read the books, you don't know that he's working as a I don't even know what he works at. As a director of a firm called Grunnings, which made drills.
which is boring as you can get.
Yeah, it's just perfect, as boring as you can get.
And he doesn't even face his window when he's at work. He faces into the office.
That is just hilarious, which is actually one of the points. So he comes out and he sees a mysterious cat reading the map and the sign, and this bit is hilarious as well. So it says, let me just find it. It was now reading the sign that said Privet Drive. No, looking at the sign. Cats couldn't read maps or signs. Mr. Dursley gave himself a little shake and put the cat out of his mind. Which is just, it really opens his character up really well, I think. And like, I tried to imagine this book starting with Dumbledore, but I think it's really important actually to establish how awful these people really are.
Yeah. And how different they are to Harry.
Yeah.
And this peculiar man in high-heeled boots and a long white beard who pops up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so he goes to work and he, as you said, he sits with his back to the window, which is hilarious. and he thinks happily of drills the whole day.
What a sentence.
He has a perfectly normal owl-free morning, so there's owls flying about all over the place. But he doesn't notice because he sat with his back to the window. He yelled at 5 different people, which he deems to be a perfectly good morning. And he was in a very good mood because of this, which again just perfectly encapsulates what kind of person he is. Like, he likes shouting and giving orders and moaning
And not looking at owls and...
yeah, not imagining things.
Yeah.
I think this is a good insight into like the bad side of British stereotypes as well.
Yeah.
Like, we love a good moan about the weather. Like, I love to moan about the weather.
Yeah.
I love a moan about anything, to be
Just
honest.
a second ago, I was sat here going, oh, it looks like it's about to rain.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And like, we are seen as kind of like straight, normal, very like uptight,
Yeah.
Almost. Like, I always remember the in the closing credits of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where all of the places go like, have like a transformation with like a rainbow going across and like food all over the place. And then in England it has like this London skyline and the rainbow goes across and it's exactly the same because it's such a boring country. So props to Joe for making England a really cool country.
Yeah.
So one thing that I wanted to point out as well in this section was this quote. He wasn't even sure his nephew was called Harry. He'd never even seen the boy, because he'd overheard some wizards talking about, did you hear? And they heard the name Harry, and it's so sad that he hadn't even ever seen his nephew.
He wasn't even sure what his name was.
Yeah.
Is it? I'm not sure if it's a fact or a headcanon that Petunia was invited to be a bridesmaid for Lily, but just never replied.
I think that is a fact.
Which is just awful.
Yeah, that she's just kind of renounced all ties of her sister. But I think she's just so jealous at this point. And then the last notable moment of this chapter, I mean, there's so many, but this isn't like just us reading out the book and being like, you haven't read the book? Let us read it to you.
We'll just play Jim K. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, no, not Jim K. Is it Jim K? No.
Jim K.
Who? No, that's the illustrator.
Stephen
That's
Fry.
the illustrator. Stephen Fry.
Stephen Fry.
Jim K is also great.
Jim K. Yeah. Dear, I didn't even notice. So anyway, he comes up to Vernon and says, he bumps into Vernon, and Vernon just mutters like, "Oh, sorry." And the wizard says, "Don't be sorry, my dear sir, for nothing could upset me today. Rejoice, for you know who has gone at last. Even muggles like yourself should be celebrating this happy, happy day." Which, like, how obvious can you get? Like, Statue of Secrecy? What's that?
Is this I think this is the first time the word muggle is used as well.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
I think it must be.
That's really cool, actually. I never noticed that. I think as well, like, this chapter is important to establish, like, how much of an influence Voldemort had on the wizarding world. And you don't really get that fear in the film, like, well, I guess happiness that he's gone.
Yeah.
But I think it adds to the fear of him, how happy they are.
Feels like it's like when you had the street parties on VE Day after the war. It's like this huge, because it's the end of a huge
I mean,
war.
it says that they have like parties everywhere.
Well, which leads me nicely on to the next section, where
Yes.
we're meeting Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall and Hagrid as they say goodbye to Harry.
Yes, nice segue.
Yeah, thank you. And Dumbledore says that there'd been feasts and parties.
Yeah, there you go.
Which obviously.
And I like how Professor McGonagall is really annoyed. She's like, it's like, what does she say?
About the parties.
Yeah, she's really annoyed at them having parties, which is so McGonagall.
I wish she would just, let her hair down, have a bit of a party.
Yeah.
Instead, she's sat on a brick wall as a cat.
Yeah.
On the day the war ends.
Yeah. So.
Says a lot about her character.
In the film, like, they just kind of gloss over her saying all of that. And she's not really I think she really comes into light right at the end.
Yeah.
Especially when, like, she uses the spell, which is a movieism, a priori incantatum. Is it?
No, it's
no, it's locomoting incantatum.
Yeah, I can't say it, but the one you're saying is with Voldemort and Harry.
And Voldemort, yeah. But when she uses that, she's like, "Oh, I always wanted to use that spell."
Yeah, I love that. That is one of those
good
movie editions that just is so perfect.
I really like that.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dumbledore also persuades McGonagall to say Voldemort, which she does, doesn't she? In the book, she actually says it. Which is unusual.
Yeah, so she says, I have never... so this is Dumbledore speaking. I have never seen any reason to be frightened of saying Voldemort's name. I know you haven't, said Professor McGonagall, sounding half exasperated, half admiring. But you're different. Everyone knows you're the only one you know who, all right, Voldemort was frightened of. So I really like that as well, because then it as well establishes how fearsome Voldemort is. That, like...
Even
you see, like, these powerful, these powerful witch and wizard. That was really bad speaking.
These powerful witch and wizard. Yeah, and even they won't use it, but an 11-year-old kid will.
Yeah.
I think it also shows that McGonagall really respects Dumbledore, because she wouldn't say that if anyone else was like, oh, just say the name. But the fact that
whereas in the film, like, they're just kind of two random friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of a, like, headmaster, deputy, headmistress type vibe, rather than, like... I get the feeling in the book that they are close friends and have been for a long time.
Yeah.
Like,
they're both really old as well.
Yeah. Well, a bit harsh on McGonagall, but...
She's pretty ancient.
She is quite old.
I mean...
Especially if we're going by the Fantastic Beasts timeline.
Ugh. Don't get me started on that cameo. I was really annoyed. I love Fantastic Beasts, but I was annoyed at that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, sorry, we won't get into Fantastic Beasts. Not the time and place, but yeah. They've obviously been together a while.
Yeah.
Do you think they met at
wizards...
Hogwarts?
Pardon?
Do you think they met at Hogwarts? Do you think they met through teaching?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Probably.
I would have thought so.
Yeah. Did they both teach Lily and James, I guess?
I
guess they
I would assume so, yeah.
McGonagall was quite close with Lily, wasn't she?
I don't know.
Happened. Maybe that's a headcanon, I get confused, but I think they had quite a close relationship, and they both get...
I think a lot of the teachers had a close relationship with Lily.
Yeah.
I think she was that kind of student.
Yeah, they both get teary-eyed when they talk about Lily and James's death.
Yes.
Which is very sad. It says Professor McGonagall's voice trembled as she went on. But that's not all. They're saying he tried to kill Potter's son.
Yeah. It's just before that as well, when McGonagall... It says, after Dumbledore bowed his head.
Professor McGonagall gasped.
Yeah.
And then Dumbledore reached out and patted her on the shoulder.
It's so
I
cute.
know, he said heavily. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Love
it's
it.
so nice that they're so affected by. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not nice that they're affected by death.
It's so lovely that they cry when people die at like 25 years old. No, not
Yeah,
25.
but
Yeah,
like,
no, probably about, I don't know. Anyway.
yeah, I never really, before like doing this podcast and like looking at it again, I never really figured that Dumbledore and all of these like great like old powerful wizards would respect Lily and James that much.
Yeah, I always forget they're part of the Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah,
They fought in the war, you know.
Lily and James were really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very sad. And then Hagrid comes, which just
Oh, Hagrid.
just sets me off even more. And he comes on what in the film you assume to be his motorbike.
I always thought it was his motorbike.
Yeah, I always forget about this bit.
Yeah, me too.
It was actually Sirius. It's Sirius Black, and it says in the book something along the lines of he said he wouldn't need it anymore.
Oh, does he?
I think so. I think he says.
Ooh.
Or maybe it's in the third book when there's the whole Marauders bit where they reference back to it, but
Maybe.
I think
No, yeah, because I don't remember seeing that. All I remember seeing was Hagrid saying, "Young Sirius Black lent it me."
Yeah.
I'm so bad at Hagrid's voice. Nobody but, was it Robbie Coltrane?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody but him can do that voice.
No.
I've tried so often when I'm reading it aloud to do that voice. It's impossible. But, like, J.K. Rowling, man.
J.K. Rowling, man. Oh, what a mind.
Her brain is so big. Like,
Yeah.
how did she... Do you think, like, she just kind of put that in and then was like, oh yeah, I'll use that name? Or do you think she knew? Do you think she knew, like, everything
do I think that she knew that Hagrid got it from Harry's dad's best friend who was his godfather, or do you think she just threw in a name and was like, oh, I should well, the problem is though, when is not the problem, but a thing is, when's Bellatrix first mentioned? Is it after Sirius Black? Or obviously it's after Sirius Black, but is it after? Is that in like it's the fourth?
I think that's actually
book,
in the fifth book.
Is it not the fourth? It is the fourth because there's the whole she's with the trial of Barty Crouch.
Yeah, the pensieve.
Which is a whole other thing that is omitted from
Yes,
film,
oh my gosh, that annoys me so much. But that is for several years in the future.
We don't need to talk about that now. But,
no.
I think that she probably... I don't think she'd just... I think she'd probably... she probably knew that it was that character because... I don't think if it had just been a random name, she would have used that name for Sirius Black, if that makes sense.
That's true.
Because you wouldn't just be like, oh, I'll use that name because he has so much. The family tree, the Black Tree, is huge and he has to be related to so many other characters that I think
that's true.
That she kind of had this little chunk of the story in advance.
Yeah. Good thought. I think in general, those two, I mean... not two scenes, because the first one is entirely omitted, which again I can totally understand why they would admit that.
For the sake of a like a fun family adventure movie, you don't want to have a whole 10 minutes of a boring family.
It's like a guy going to work.
Yeah, exactly. But for a book, you can have half a chapter explaining it. But I think it was a smart decision for the films.
Yeah,
to start with.
That's
Dumbledore.
a really good start to a film.
Yeah.
It's like this mysterious, tall, old guy carrying... Well, not carrying Harry. What am I saying?
Big fan.
Meeting a cat who turns into a woman.
Here's a question. At the beginning, it refers to his Deluminator as a put-outer.
Yes.
I think... Does she capitalise the the letters maybe. Well, she refers to it as a device that looks like a cigarette lighter that
Yes.
takes out the light, and then she continues to refer to it as a put-outer. Do you think that she was going to refer to it as a put-outer and then was like, oh, I want to change it to a cooler name, so I'll go to Illuminator? Or do you think
she does capitalise it?
Right.
Here's what I think, and I love J.K. Rowling. I think she's a genius, but I think she was just like, what the flipping heck do I name this this thing?
Yeah.
And I think she was just like, oh, put-outer.
Put-outer, yeah.
That sounds slightly
like
odd and
what it does.
wizardy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then do you think in like the later books she was like,
I think
you know
she
what,
was
Deluminator
like,
sounds better.
Idiot! Deluminator sounds so much cooler.
And just went with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good thought.
I think that's
like
probably what happened. Because at first when I read it, I thought she was just continuing to refer to it as a put-outer so that she didn't have to go, he calls this device a deluminator, you know?
That's true,
but
yes,
the fact that she capitalised it, I think, means that maybe she
it was her word for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Dear Joe. Oh dear. Before I introduce the next section, I really wanted to read the last bit of this chapter.
Yeah, it's a great end.
It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sad as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, Harry Potter rolled over inside his blankets without waking up. One small hand closed on the letter beside him and he slept on, not knowing he was special, not knowing he was famous, not knowing he would be woken in a few hours' time by Mrs. Dursley's scream as she opened the front door to put out the milk bottles, nor that he would spend the next few weeks being prodded and pinched by his cousin Dudley. He couldn't know that at this very moment, people meeting in secret all over the country were holding up their glasses and saying in hushed voices, "To Harry Potter, the boy who lived." It's given me tingles.
Yeah. I also want to add, on a slightly less touching note, that I collect different editions of the first Harry Potter, and I have the Scots edition, and the boy who lived in the Scots edition, the chapter title is "The Laddie Wha Lived."
That's so
Which
good.
is just great. I love it so much.
That's so good.
Maybe we should have ended on the emotional Harry Potter, but you know.
No, I'm glad you said that. That's so funny.
Such a great title.
Oh dear. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll be celebrating Dudley's birthday. Whoop-de-doo. Aren't you just so excited? So, everyone knows what happens. But in the book, obviously, we have a description of Harry. And obviously they don't have to describe Harry in the film
because you can see him.
Here he is.
Be a bit odd if they did.
Yeah. But so in doing so, they miss out a really cool detail in that Harry actually really likes his scar, and he actually says it's one of the only things that he liked about his appearance.
Which is also very sad for
it is really
11-year-old. Does he, when he finds out that his scar is what makes him famous, does he start trying to cover it? Because I feel like that's something that happens in the books, is that he tries to cover his scar.
Yeah, I think he does start to cover it, but
recognised, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it's because he dislikes it. I think it's because
of what it represents, I guess.
Yeah, like people are recognising him because of it. Yeah. And he doesn't like being famous because
and it
I think he'd be perfectly fine with being famous for being like a great wizard. Right. But he's famous because some random dude killed his parents. Yeah. Like, that's not a good thing to be famous for.
At least he got a cool scar though. Could you imagine if you got like
got a cool scar out of it?
Yeah.
Like a chunk out of his nose missing or something. That'd be
yeah.
That'd be great. Okay, so then we move into the kitchen, and one bit that they don't have in the film is that Dudley, well, I guess they have him tantruming, but not as much as in the book. And I quoted a bit in our, so we have a shared doc for this podcast, and I quoted a bit in the doc that says, sorry, it's just so funny to me. Harry, who could see a huge Dudley tantrum coming on, began wolfing down his bacon as fast as possible in case Dudley turned the table over.
The fact that his cousin turning over the table is a possibility he needs to worry about.
It begs the question,
how many times?
How often does this happen?
How many times has that happened?
Yeah. I think at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah. A week? I was going to go like 3 times ever, but I guess actually it would be more regular.
He's such a brat.
Yeah.
I don't think they quite capture his brattiness
No.
in the film.
Yeah, he's just a bit of an obnoxious child, which most children are, to be fair.
Yeah, most children are, but he's like awful. So spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another great bit is Dudley struggling with the maths when Petunia tells him that he can have another present. So it says, Dudley thought for a moment. It looked like hard work. Finally, he said slowly, so I'll have 39 sweetums, said Aunt Petunia. So not only is he spoiled, he's also a bit of an idiot.
Yeah.
Which I always forget.
Yeah, it's
because I'm so saturated with
some people are not very good at maths, but it's 38 plus 1.
It's 38 plus 1.
That's just counting.
Yeah. So you would have thought that he'd be able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe it's a bit of Joe exaggerating, but it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And Vernon's reaction is just hilarious as well.
But also awful.
Yeah, awful. Little tyke wants his money's worth, just like his father. Attaboy, Dudley! And he ruffles Dudley's hair.
You kind of understand why he is the way he is.
Yes, he's a product of his environment.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how Vernon is like this. I mean, is he a product of his environment?
We could go all the way back.
Yeah. To the first Dursley.
That sounds like some kind of, I don't know, strange novel.
Yeah, the first Dursley.
First Dursley.
I would read it. If it was Harry Potter.
Anything J.K. Rowling writes.
Yeah. Apart from the latest ones. Anyway.
I mean, I still read them. Anyway.
So the next bit that I miss out is that the Dursleys trying to fob Harry off onto Mrs. Figg, who has broken her leg, or Petunia's friend Yvonne, who was on holiday, which I think is a really cool little bit of detail.
Do you think that she really broke her leg?
I think about this a lot. Well, not a lot, but
every waking moment.
Yeah, I'm lying awake thinking,
because I want to know.
Yeah.
I don't think
Mrs.
she did.
Figg break her
Personally.
leg? No, I don't think she did either. But it says later on that she's on her crutches.
Maybe she bought them just to walk past their house, and then she ditches
that's
them.
Something that she would do, I guess.
Yeah.
I really love Mrs. Figg.
Do you think that she was just faking it because she wanted Harry to go to the zoo, or do you think that, like, I don't know, she'd been told by Dumbledore or something, like, that they want him to get out and like figure out that he's got magic, you know? Because that's what happens.
Oh yeah. Or just like, this child has not had a normal bit of life yet.
I mean, Dumbledore doesn't seem to care too much, but
yeah.
I mean,
we'll
get into that.
Yeah. So, and there's also the omission of Piers Polkiss. He's an interesting little chap. So he's one of Dudley's little friends. And he's described as a scrawny boy with a face like a rat, which is charming. I don't know
love
about you.
Pierce.
I like Piers.
Yeah,
Did you just say that?
Yeah, I love Pierce. I like the idea of him kind of being quite normal compared to the Dursleys,
Yes.
and just being a bit confused when all this is going on, and like his cousin isn't being bought an ice cream, and like
Yes,
even though
I
he
do
must
think
be
about
he
that.
must be pretty awful to be friends with Dudley, but I still imagine him being a bit like, who is this kid I've
Why
never
aren't they
seen before?
buying? Yeah, like why does he have strangely big
Yeah,
clothes? Why have I never seen him
yeah.
before? Although, has he seen him before?
I imagine not. I feel like probably when Dudley has his friends over, he's like,
Harry
stay in the
hides in his
cupboard. Yeah.
room. Yeah. Yeah, I say room. Cupboard.
Room. Yeah. Well, oh no, not room yet.
No, not room yet. Spoiler.
We gave you the warning.
Yeah. Oh, actually, when you said that Piers just a normal little boy, I do like this little bit in the book that says, Harry like randomly says after a motorbike overtakes them on a road, he says, "I had a dream about a motorbike. It was flying." And Uncle Vernon, his reaction is so over the top. He shouts at Harry, "Motorbikes don't fly!" And Dudley and Piers snigger, which I'm surprised that Dudley sniggers.
Yeah.
Because he's brought up to think that like imagination is bad, but I like that Piers sniggers.
Yeah. I guess it's more just sniggering at Harry getting told off for something.
That's true.
More than the reason he's getting told off.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So when they're at the zoo, Harry gets all of the second-hand things. He's
so happy about getting the leftover ice cream.
Yeah, and the little ice lolly. So he says, "I love this little bit." I mean, it's useless to say. I love every bit of Harry Potter.
We love Harry Potter, in case you didn't know.
Yeah. It says that because the smiling lady in the van had asked Harry that what he wanted before they could hurry him away, they bought him a cheap lemon ice lolly. It wasn't bad either, Harry thought, licking it as they watched a gorilla scratching its head. And looking remarkably like Dudley, except that it wasn't blonde. Sassy Harry coming in.
I love Sassy Harry. That's one of those things I wish there was more of in the film.
Yes, me too.
Also, can I just say, excellent saleswoman, that
yes!
ice cream lady.
Do you think she did that on purpose?
I think she's probably just
noticed?
trained to like ask everyone who's there to
that's
what
true.
they want so that they buy more stuff. Like how when you're at a restaurant they're like, anything else? You know?
That's true.
Rather than her being like, oh no, he's not getting bought something, let me help him. She's just like doing her job.
Yeah. I bet she didn't even think that they wouldn't buy him something.
Yeah.
Because like, who wouldn't?
Why wouldn't you? Yeah. Especially if it looks like, she would assume that that's their son.
Yeah.
Or a friend of their son's.
Yeah. So then we get to the snake. I don't know why I said that so weird. The snake.
The snake. The snake. Where'd my arms go? Just kidding, I'm a snake. Anyway.
What?
Sorry. It's a very Potter senior year.
Oh, I haven't seen that in so long. I always rewatch the first one.
Yeah. No, actually, no, that's not true. I always go to the second, because the songs are my favourite in the second one.
Oh, yes, the songs are so good. Oh, I remember the snake bit now.
Anyway, we get to the snake.
Sorry. We get to the snake. I really love this bit in the film, actually. So in the book, the glass of the snake tank remains vanished. So they can get Dudley out, it's all fine. But in the film, it returns, trapping Dudley
Which is so traumatic.
Yes, but I feel like that would be something that Joe would add.
Yeah. It was a good touch.
I really love that. And then when the snake comes out and thanking Harry for freeing it, the snake calls Harry amigo, apparently as a reference, according to the list of book to film differences. It's apparently as a reference to its South American ancestry. I really hate that, actually.
Why?
I hate that he says amigo because I feel like in the film it's a lot more mysterious. He's just like, thanks.
That's
And he slithers
that's
off.
one of the things that I feel like is quite different though between the Harry Potter films and books, is that the books feel a little bit more like quirky and fun and
True.
weird, which is why I quite like the third one. So I feel like in
Yes.
the book it's a bit more like, yeah, why is a snake saying amigo? Whereas in the the
Yes.
film it's like mysterious and oh, magic, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would have been I feel like it feels right in the book.
Yeah, both feel right.
Yeah, in the context they're in.
Yeah, but I do prefer. Oh, he actually says, "Brazil, here I come. Thanks, amigo." Yeah. Then Piers in the little rat, which I guess is true because she describes him as a rat. In the car ride home, Harry was like getting off scot-free. It says Dudley was telling them how it had nearly bitten off its leg, his leg. And Piers was swearing it had tried to squeeze him to death.
I love the idea of like an 11-year-old kid being like, yeah, squeeze me to death. It bit my arm
Yeah.
off. Yeah, it's just so
Yeah.
it's so accurate. That's what I used
Yeah.
to do when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think so too. I'd be like, oh my gosh, did you hear it? Do you hear it have a go at that girl over there? I'd be like lying through my teeth.
Yeah.
So, and then it says, but worst of all for Harry at least, was Piers calming down enough to say, Harry was talking to it, weren't you, Harry?
Which
So Harry thought he was having the best day of his life until that
and then he
happened.
comes and ruins it, which makes sense because I always was a bit confused about. I mean, I guess Vernon just will take any excuse to punish Harry, but you know, in the film
But
where he looks over to Harry and Harry's like kind of, I guess he's smirking, but
He is laughing,
Yeah.
so it could be like, oh, he's laughing.
he's
But,
laughing at my son. Yeah,
but he blatantly, I think it's implied in the film that he knows that Harry did it.
yeah.
But it's true that he didn't see Harry do it at all. He
But I
was
guess
off.
who else would have vanished glass from? Because he knows that he's magical.
True. I think in this instance, because he can punish him really harshly for it, he's willing to accept Harry's magicalness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
a good
true
point.
though, because he doesn't want to accept that he's magic. But I guess it's a balance of I can lock him in a cupboard for days and I have to accept that he has magic if I want to do that.
Yeah. So then, in the film, Harry states that his encounter was like magic, to which Vernon replies, "There's no such thing as magic."
Which is so snappy and I love it.
I love that, yes. It's so good with the rhythm of the music and...
Yeah. Or what's the word? I don't know what the word is, like vocal, but when you listen, I think it's oral. When you hear it, that's why I like in GCSE drama anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, orally it works better. But I think for reading, I mean you haven't got to this bit yet, but I think how it
go ahead.
It works better in each instance because in the book he can't say anything and he says go cupboard stay no wheels. And I think, both of them work in the context that they're in. Yeah,
I agree. And then it says, before he collapsed into a chair and Aunt Petunia had to run and get him a large brandy.
She had to. It was a necessity.
Yeah. It's like how I like in Harry Potter. I mean, this for those international people who may be listening. I mean, my hopes are that there will be international people listening, but you know,
might just be
I
us.
can't hope too much. They always, J.K. Rowling always portrays people as like, oh, I'll go and fetch some tea, as like a solution to every problem. Like, oh, I'll go and fetch some tea. Whereas I feel like, even though I don't drink tea, but I feel like that's not really in British culture as much as she like enforces it. I think like she enforces it a lot more.
Yeah.
Is it like it's almost seen as you said, like I have to go and fetch some tea
Yeah.
to calm
I
this
have to.
person's
It is
down?
a must.
Yeah,
I feel like it's
yeah.
quite a big thing though of like if you want to have a chat with someone, you'll like
That's
you'll
true.
make them a
I'll
drink and
make
then
some
they'll open
tea.
up if
Yeah,
you've given them a like a hot chocolate.
yeah.
It's
So
quite
like
calming
before,
as
so
well, isn't
we're
it?
recording this in the COVID-19 pandemic. So before this happened, I was over at a friend's house and she was like, "Oh, can I get you some tea?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm fine." Because I do drink like herbal tea and
Hmm.
fruit tea sometimes, but I'm not that bothered by it. And she was like, are you sure? Are you sure?" And I basically had to say yes because she
Hmm.
wouldn't stop going on at me as well, like, "You must have tea."
It is quite a
Um,
big. I feel like it's a big part of British culture though, having a cup of tea.
it's
At
true.
least
Yeah.
from in terms of stereotypes and how we're perceived from
Yeah. But I
abroad.
feel like Joe definitely
Yeah,
like pushes that.
yeah, like she does with
Um,
everything.
mm,
Because it is a. I mean, it's not a. I hesitate to say it's a kids' book, but it is a kids' book, and
yeah.
that's what you do in
Yeah.
children's novels
You
is you exaggerate.
yeah. Yeah. That's true. I never thought of that actually. Um, so yeah, and then I forgot to include this in the doc. When Harry is just lying on his bed in his sorry little cupboard. Um, he just kind of tries to remember things, and he says sometimes he remembers a blinding flash of green light and a burning fit pain on his forehead.
Mm.
Um, and I always forget how old he was. Like he was about 18 months
Yeah.
um, when his parents died. So
Hmm.
he would have remembered something. Like
Hmm.
there would be some kind of trauma. He would be old enough to have definitely
Some
emotional
memory.
trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Um,
which which I always find a bit confusing because of the whole
mm.
Thestrals argument of you have to have processed something or understood the death to see Thestrals.
I think it's more of you. You have to. Oh, what is it? What's the wording?
Of grieved.
Um, you have to have grieved. Yes,
Right.
thank you. And I think Harry, because he'd never known his
He never got the
parents.
chance to because he was told never to think about them.
Yeah, like there's no pictures
Yeah.
of his parents in the Dursleys' house. Like he's never
No pictures of
seen
him.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he doesn't really have a chance to grieve.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, I don't think about the fact he doesn't even know what his parents look like
I know, I
or
know. I mean,
anything
it
about
said
them.
that here as well. He couldn't remember his parents at all. His aunt and uncle never spoke about them, and of course, he was forbidden to ask
Mm.
questions. There were no photographs of them in the house.
I always
And
I always forget that the Mirror of Erised is the first time he sees his family, besides
ever,
the
yeah, me
Dursleys.
too. I even didn't cotton on to
Mm.
that until just now. Yeah,
Which
that's
is
so
why it's more
sad.
understandable that because
He's so
sometimes yeah,
obsessed.
he just wants to stay there. Yeah,
Yeah, he wants to be with his
yeah,
parents.
it's so sad. And his like
Um,
great granddad with his knobbly knees. I love that bit. Anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there soon.
yeah, it's true. Like he says as well after this, he's in this little after bit after he's locked in his cave. He said when he had been younger, Harry had dreamed and dreamed of some unknown relation coming to take him away, but it had never happened. The Dursleys were his only family.
Mm. Which is
But
why
he
ends
then
up with
says
him.
some strangers seem to know him. Oh, here I think is
Oh, Deagles Diggle. Is that his name?
yeah, is
Yeah.
mentioned. It says a tiny man in a violet top hat had bowed to him once while out shopping. After asking Harry furiously if he knew the man, Aunt Petunia had rushed them out of the shop without buying anything,
Do you think she
which
knew that
must
it
have
was
gone.
a wizard?
I think
I
so.
guess
Yeah,
the top hat kind of tipped her
gives
off.
it away a
Yeah.
bit. Nobody wears top hats, even in the 90s.
No. Although,
Yeah.
interestingly, I didn't realise this until I can't remember the movie like less than a year ago that the films aren't set in the 90s. Obviously,
No,
you see the
they're set
Millennium
in the early
Bridge,
2000s.
but I always thought that it was just a bit of a like error that they had the Millennium Bridge there. But they actually have all the dates and everything, making it work so that it's the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think they wanted it to be more relatable.
Yeah, just modern. I would love if
Yeah.
they did a remake of the 90s.
Oh, like the morning like dungarees and scrunchies.
Yeah. But just ignore all the dangerous stuff. Like it's just Hogwarts stuff.
Yeah,
Have it like
I
Ginny's year
want
or
like a
something.
cartoon series
Yeah, like a
of
Netflix
Harry
series.
Potter.
That'd
Yes,
be so good.
an animated one
Yeah.
where you can like have the characters exactly
That would
how
be
the
so
artist in
cool.
question would
Netflix
portray
is doing
them.
a bunch of like choose your own adventure style like movies where you like click what you want them to do and where you want them to go.
Oh,
Could you
cool.
imagine if you had that with Harry Potter? Like, do you want them to go to the
Oh,
third floor or like? And it was anyway.
that would be so
I'm
cool.
excited. We need to pitch this.
Yeah. How long are we on? 50 minutes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's nice. It'll be like
That's all right.
yeah.
Okay, so that's it for the main section of this episode. And now we'll go to Lucy for our locations section, the Marauders map.
Okie dokie. So, the main location obviously is Privet Drive.
Dum, dum, dum.
And for the first film, all the scenes at Privet Drive were shot on location at 12 Picket Close, Winkfield in Bracknell. Stuart Craig...
I want to go there.
What? You want to go there?
I want to go there.
Yeah. Oh, actually, they must get so sick of people just showing up on that
That's
drive.
true.
Although the people that lived there did put their house up for sale for like more than it was worth in like 2003, I think.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah. Stuart Craig said that Christopher Columbus wanted to create a vast urban jungle, which I think they do perfectly in the
Yes.
films. It's so perfect. Of all the locations,
Yeah.
I think Privet Drive is just so spot on.
Yeah, me too. Like, not too... Like, I don't see the Dursleys as, like, really rich people.
No. They're just normal.
But
They're just so normal.
they're so normal. Yeah. But it's all, like, very prim and proper.
Yeah.
Like, these are the types of people who use their hose pipes even when there's a hose pipe ban.
And actually,
yeah.
all the cars. I don't know if this carries on through all the movies, but in the first movie, every single car on the road is the same car, just in different colours. It's
I
the same
didn't
make
know
of car.
that.
I think it's like a almost people carrier type car, and they're all the same,
Oh
it's just
my
different
gosh,
colours.
that's so funny.
and they all have the same fence and everything.
Ha!
It's so perfect.
Oh, I love that. That's so Privet Drive.
Yeah, it's little things like that in the movies that I think just make them so good. Like
Yes.
things that aren't mentioned in the book, but they just kind
You
of
just
get
kind
it,
of,
you know?
yeah, you kind of see it in out of the corner of your eye,
Yeah. Or you
but
don't,
you never
but
like
you just
notice.
feel it.
Yeah.
Like you feel that it's all the same, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Yeah.
There's a
yeah.
shot, I think.
Oh, that's so cool.
I think it's either the third or the fifth film. I think it's the fifth film, where it's. Do you know the one I mean? Where it's like an aerial shot going over the whole area of Little Whinging, and you just see all these houses in like the same.
Oh, yeah,
rows.
when Harry's in the park.
Yeah, the fifth one, isn't it? Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
It's just such a perfect shot, and I think.
I love that too.
As they said, a vast urban jungle. I think it's exactly what they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
Do you know when they actually built it? Because we've been in number 4 Privet Drive, the set version.
Yeah. The location was used just for the first film.
Okay.
And then they I can't remember, the reason was either basically the street wanted more money than they could afford, but that would be cheaper than just building it. It was either because of the
Right.
success of the first film, they were like, oh, well, we want a bit more, or it was because, I think it might have been that the schedule ran over for the first film. It ran like 2 weeks over. So they were like, well,
right.
this is an inconvenience, we want more money. And so it ended up just being cheaper to build it on Leavesden Studios.
I think that was a smart decision.
Yeah, definitely.
That's such a cool set. If you haven't been to the studio tour, that is a really cool bit to go on. And if you're lucky, they'll open it up and you can see all of the letters inside.
I think we were there for the time we went inside, there was some kind of feature going on.
There's a special
like
going
a special
on,
thing.
yeah.
But I'm sure they'll open it at different times for different things. Yeah, it's very cool.
That is really cool.
And then the other location was the Reptile House at the Zoological Society of London, London Zoo in Regent's Park, which...
Yes.
I mean...
Have you been there?
No.
I've been there... When did we go to London Zoo?
They have a huge plaque thing, don't they, that says like Harry Potter was filmed here.
I didn't notice it if they did.
Well, they do. I don't know why I was asking. I know for a fact
we might
that
not
there
have
is.
gone to the reptile house because unfortunately when I went, it was a few years ago I think, when I went I didn't know that they filmed it there.
It's very sad.
So I probably wasn't looking for it.
For some reason, when I was younger, I always used to go to the reptile houses just because I liked snakes and amphibians and stuff.
Me too. I used to want a snake until I realised that you had to keep dead mice in your fridge.
I always wanted a bearded dragon.
Ooh, yes.
The like local kind of farmy zoo near to me they have two bearded dragons, one called Dumbledore and one called Gandalf.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to have one and name it Hagrid. But I didn't because you have to feed them like live bugs. And I'm not that live.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay. Well, I think that concludes this episode of Potterwatch from page to screen.
Keep twiddling those dials, keep each other safe, keep faith.
Good night. Should we do a clap?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. I had to delay that for you.
Okay.
But I think we did the same.
I don't know if it was. Okay.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Potterwatch.
Okay, no, sorry.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Potterwatch from the page to... Oh gosh, I'm already ready to page. Okay, I can do this.